This is big breaking news. Top officials in the Trump administration are now warning and now investigating, saying that toxic chemicals are being released into the air and into the skies above the USA. He is saying he's looking into investigating this to shut it down. And there are multiple companies doing this, releasing potentially toxic chemicals into the air, unchecked and unregulated, essentially. So let's get into the details here. Really quick, guys, please just hit that like and hit that subscribe. I'm posting every single day, keeping you guys updated on this big news, and it just helps to get these alerts out. I appreciate that. So right now we have the head of the EPA. His name is Lee Zeldin, and he is saying that there are certain companies that are, quote, geoengineering and injecting potentially toxic chemicals that you are breathing in. And he is saying he wants to shut this down. This is what he said on X/Twitter just today, Tuesday, April 15th. He said, quote, Make Sunsets, this is the name of the company, is a startup that is geoengineering by injecting sulfur dioxide into the sky and then selling, quote, cooling credits. This company is polluting the air we breathe, and I've instructed my team that we need to quickly get to the bottom of this and take immediate action. All right, so this stuff's actually been going on for decades. And there's been, for some reason, I'm not sure if there's like a big lobbying effort behind this, but 99% of politicians and officials will flat out deny this is happening, even if their own state or county has programs for this. We're going to dive into how Texas has an entire geoengineering program. We're going to talk more about that in just a second. And they actually contract some of their companies from Texas to geoengineer in New Mexico even. All right, we're going to get into that in just a second, specific companies that are doing this. But this is what this order is saying. He's investigating, quote, Make Sunsets, and he is saying that they are potentially violating certain Clean Air Acts, all right, certain parts of the Clean Air Act by, quote, adversely impacting air quality. It says here that the administrator may require any person who owns or operates any emission source who manufactures emission controls equipment or process equipment and who they believe they may have information necessary for these purposes set forth, they can force them to provide information, right? So it says within 30 days of receipt of this information request letter, Make Sunsets must provide the information requested, right? So they want to figure out exactly what they're doing. They want to figure out exactly where they're geoengineering and where they are releasing, and they get paid to do this. This is the craziest part is there's this whole scheme. It's called carbon credits, cooling credits that he alluded to, where companies, they get a score. It's like a ESG score, environmental score for their company, and for certain loans even impacts this. And they offset their credits by doing stuff like this, paying this company to release sulfur dioxide into there. So they go and pollute something. They go and pollute some river, or they, go release a ton of unnatural chemicals, or they go do their own thing, these companies, right? And then to, quote, clean up and make up for it, they buy carbon credits, and then another company, they just pay another company to release even more crap into the air and into the skies. And that's apparently offsetting it, all right? So they're saying the sulfur dioxide that they release is offsetting the bad stuff that this company did before. They cut down a bunch of trees for this building they're making to offset the carbon credits for that, and to keep their ESG score low, they go pay this other company, Make Sunsets, quote, cooling credits, and they give them cooling credits to release sulfur dioxide. It's insane, right? None of it makes sense. It's just releasing more. It's just honestly polluting the environment even more in the name of environmentalism. It's insane, and it's all just a big money scheme as well too. That's why a lot of this has happened, is because people make a lot of money from this stuff. So it's good to see, and there are probably hundreds, there's at least dozens, there's multiple in every single state. All right, we're going to dive into Texas in just a second. But there's probably hundreds of these companies operating inside the United States that have very little regulation or oversight. And they can honestly just do experiments on whatever they want. All right, they can release sulfur dioxide, they can release silver iodide, they can release all types of chemicals. Let's get into what these, and it's basically only regulated at a state level, so they apply for a permit, and if the state approves it, then they can almost do whatever they want. It's like $300 or $400. I've shown the permits on here before. I've made dozens of videos on this topic because this is a real thing. Geoengineering, cloud seeding, sulfur or solar radiation management, which is where they release sulfur dioxide to block out the sun. There's cloud seeding, where they make clouds to make precipitation and rain. There is cloud thinning, where they take clouds that are already in the sky and they thin them out and block out the sun with those as well too. And then there's also a technique called marine cloud brightening as well too. These are all real, and that's why I'm saying like the scientific name here, so nobody can say, oh, that's made up. No, these are real things. Look it up. A marine cloud brightening, where they release chemicals into the air to, quote, whiten the clouds to reflect back more sunlight as well too. It's even a technique that they put in a lot of the fuel for the ships, right? So all the shipping containers, there's thousands of them always moving across the globe. All these big ships, they put, I believe it's actually sulfur in the fuel, so when it burns off, that's being released in the air too, and that's part of the marine cloud brightening and blocking out the sun, the solar radiation management. That's another technique they have, and that's openly admitted. That's not some theory or anything. That's 100% a real thing that's been happening for decades. Okay, so these things are going on, right? And it's good to see finally the EPA is looking into this, right? But they normally just cover for things like this and then harass people that are actually trying to do business, right? It says here that Texas-based companies that are involved in this, there's multiple companies, right, that are doing cloud seeding operations and atmospheric research, which is SOAR, SOAR, seeding operations and atmospheric research. That's what they call, that's a section of this. It says, based in San Angelo, Texas, SOAR is the primary contractor for New Mexico's Southeastern Cloud Seeding Program since 2022. It's led by Gary Walker, a former U.S. Navy pilot with experience since 1997. It says SOAR uses aircraft to deliver silver iodide or calcium chloride. The company claims a 15% rainfall increase in Texas programs, with some areas seeing up to 2 inches more of rain. SOAR's work in New Mexico is supported by the Roosevelt Soil and Water Conservation District and has been praised by local farmers like Rick Ledbetter for its potential to alleviate drought stress. All right, so they're saying 15% increase in rainfall, up to 2 inches more, which is a lot. And some of the side effects of this is things like flooding. All right, certain areas in New Mexico the past year have been flooding like crazy, like Roswell, New Mexico, and the surrounding areas have been devastated by floods that happened soon after fires that burned a lot of the trees and vegetation, and then there was mudslides and then fires. So potentially could be related. Not saying it is, but these things are happening in New Mexico in these same exact counties. They have cloud seeding operations, and 15%, a couple inches of rain, could be enough to tip the scales and cause flooding in certain areas. Not saying it did, but maybe it could. It's something that needs to be looked into more, and people need to know about it too. They need to let people know when they're doing this, because a lot of it is clandestine. It's kind of secret. It's kind of like we don't know when they're doing it. These companies just do it when they want to do it. People report that they can see it a lot of times in front of their face in the skies. All right, let me know down below if you've seen anything, but there should be a public notice. All right, this is something that affects everyone in these areas. They should let people know, hey, they're going to cloud seed today, and it should be a public notice. That way there can be tracking and tracing of exactly what's going on too. We want to measure these things. Also, another company is called Just Clouds. It's another Texas-based company that's been mentioned in regional cloud seeding discussions. Just Clouds has not been directly linked to current New Mexico programs, but it was noted in 2012 for its expertise in atmospheric research. So multiple companies, right, are doing this, and this is just a few companies in Texas. This is happening all over the country. In every single state almost, they have these programs. And some of the substances that they use are things like silver iodide, which is used to take cloud condensation and stimulate precipitation, right? So it essentially like crystallizes the cloud condensation that's in the air and allows it to form structure, right? Because there's moisture in the air and it's forcing that to structuralize and become a cloud, right? A lot of people have argued that where there are not clouds naturally, forcing clouds to be could be zapping and sapping the moisture from the environment, maybe from the earth, from the soil, from the trees, from the surrounding areas, that where the clouds are not being formed, people have argued that potentially it's sucking extra moisture out and making those other areas that aren't being cloud seeded extra dry, right? That's just an argument that people have said. So silver iodide is one of the main things that is used. Also, different salts like sodium chloride, potassium chloride, calcium chloride are used as alternative, where salts may be more effective in arid conditions, right? So like I said, they're really forcing these clouds to form where they are not naturally occurring. So there could be side effects. We're not sure exactly. That's why they should let people know so we can trace these things. It should be public. If they're really going to do this, it should at least be public, and we can test the results to see if this is safe and to see if it's even working or not. Also, things like dry ice, solid carbon dioxide has been used as well too. And there's aircraft methods from airplanes that inject these agents into the air, and there's also ground-based generators that emit silver iodide plumes, and the wind creates the clouds, right? So they actually have these all over the place. They're all over the Rocky Mountains, right? I've seen documentaries of these on the ground generators, and they're just like they're almost like a stick air filter or something like that, but at the metal, and at the top of them they're releasing the silver iodide. It's just like a mist of it into the air, and a lot of times they will put them up on the mountains where the clouds are already, kind of near, right? A lot of times these mountains are in the clouds, so it's perfect for this technique, right? That's what they think, at least. And they have these ground-based generators all over the place as well too, right? So these things they're releasing these chemicals all over the place, and it's concerning, right? These things could potentially accumulate in the environment eventually. They could be affecting, who knows, things like water and aquatic life, plant life, even bacterial life, because there's even been studies where there's excess accumulation of silver iodide can potentially cause problems with microbial life, bacterial life, and especially inside waterways. And a lot of that is the basis of life for the animals, right? The fish are eating the algae and the plankton and the little plants that are growing. And if a lot of those things are wiped out because there's too much, because silver is a disinfectant, antibacterial, and so is iodide as well too. So these things together, it's essentially a disinfectant as well, right? So it can kill microbial life. It can potentially affect things like frogs and fish, and then birds eat the frogs or the fish, and it gets into the food chain, right? And these things could be accumulating, right? They could be affecting bugs. I don't know about you, but there's been just way less bugs than normal, right? There's been a ton of ticks, right? Ticks aren't going anywhere. It's been 5-10x the amount of ticks that I've ever seen. But every other bug, really not seen them the past few years. And I'm not saying this is related, but I'm just saying there's something going on, right? I think there's something going on. And we don't know exactly what's happening. They're just releasing these concoctions, we're not even sure exactly what it is. There's so many different things that they could be using. That's just for cloud seeding, right? All those different salts that I mentioned, silver iodide, sodium chloride, potassium chloride, calcium chloride. These are all just salts. That's just one thing, right? And not to mention the side effect of potentially acidifying or alkalizing, making it more alkaline, the soil, right? Potentially changing the pH composition of the soil because of these salts, right? These salts are normally acidic, and they normally make soil more acidic over time when they accumulate, right? Even sulfur dioxide creates acid rain when it gets in high enough concentrations in the atmosphere. So why would we be releasing sulfur dioxide when, if it accumulates enough inside of clouds, it could rain down and mixes with water? It creates acid rain, literally acid rain. This is one of the main ways it's created. So why would we be releasing this into the skies? It doesn't really make sense, right? And I think down the road, we're going to realize that this was a mistake. So let me know what you guys think down below. Please hit it up for me down there. It helps to get these alerts out, get these warnings out, just so people know what's going on and what's happening, right? At least the EPA is finally looking into something that has been going on for a long time and actually needs changed, right? A lot of times they're just like putting on regulations for no reason, right? And things that don't really need it. And then things like this that people are worried about, people want answers for. And a lot of it, like the reason people are upset about it, and I see it all the time. I see it in the comments. I see it everywhere. Even sometimes just talking to people will bring it up and notice it in person. And I think a lot of the reason is people don't know what it is. It's so mysterious, and it's so like, that's not, and there's so much just pushback to say that's not what it is. That's not what you're seeing. But then these other companies like this do exist, and they are doing operations all the time. They've been in business for decades, some of them. And these programs have existed at state level, county level, and even federal level, right? Just a few years ago, the federal government gave millions of dollars for cloud seeding for the Colorado River. Okay, this was, I believe, 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago now. I think maybe it was 2022, where the White House under Biden was directly funding cloud seeding operations for the Colorado River. Okay? So it's out in the open. But there's this weird denial for some reason to say it's not happening. But hopefully we get some answers soon. Let me know down below if you're seeing this in your state. I don't know. It seems like I'm definitely seeing a lot of it lately, right? The past few weeks, it seems like almost every other day there's a lot of activity going on where there really shouldn't be, okay? And it'll be a nice cloudy sunny day, or a nice sunny day. Sorry, I'm saying cloudy because I'm just used to these clouds popping up out of nowhere and these things happening. You can see it, right? You can see it. Even my son sees it sometimes and just notices it and talks about it, all right? I don't even really say anything about it, and he even notices it. So because he's just always looking outside, looking at the sky, playing outside. We're always going to the park, going fishing, doing things, so he's always just looking up, and he even notices it sometimes, where it's a nice sunny day, no clouds, blue sky, and then within an hour or two, things will be totally different when some of these things start. And just the patterns and the way some of the planes are just flying seem totally unnatural. Doesn't really seem like a person that is just going on a joyride, okay? A lot of these patterns are unnatural. A lot of times they're directly in front of the sun. And a lot of the times they don't show up on radar too. It's strange. Where I will check to see, hey, what's up with this plane? And there will be no plane on the radar anywhere near. So that's happened a lot of the times too. I don't know if it's like drone technology sometimes is being used, so it doesn't have to have a transponder that will show up on a flight radar, but I don't know what's going on, right? But I can see things happening with my own eyes, whether it's just, oh, it's normal, that's what's happening, something's happening, right? And there will be days where it's completely blue, and then everything will be changed, and it'll be cloudy, and then it'll be like cold and windy all of a sudden, and the sun is just blocked out, right? This happens a lot. So let me know your experience down below. I'm not blaming anyone directly, any of these companies or anything like that, saying they are doing anything specifically, but they do exist, and they are doing these operations. So just make sure you are prepared, make sure you are stocked up, because some of these areas across the country have been getting hit hard with flooding, right? And if it's all natural anyways, then there really isn't any need to have this geoengineering program, right? We're seeing this flooding all over the place. Like right now, there's flooding all over the Appalachia, Tennessee, Kentucky, Ohio. There's been a ton of flooding the past few weeks in this part of the country. And if that's all natural, then we don't even need a program. We don't even need a cloud seeding program. And I've seen comments and I've seen people saying in these exact states that are flooding and have been flooding the past few weeks, saying, I see the stuff. I see it going on. They're doing it here. So why are they doing it there? If it's all natural, they have enough water. They have enough. They're plenty. Their rivers are full. Their creeks are full. They're flowing, and they have too much. These programs shouldn't even exist in certain areas. They don't even have an excuse. It shouldn't exist at all, most likely. It's one of these things. It's like the technology could be useful in certain areas, maybe, where there is major water issues going on, but it's risky. It's extremely risky, but it needs to be consensual. People need to know about it. And what's the excuse? Why is it happening in Kentucky, right? Or Tennessee or Arkansas, or these areas where they're getting a ton of rain and flooding and tornadoes? They don't need it right now, right? So there's no excuse really for it to be happening in certain parts of the countries where people in Florida, people are saying they're seeing Florida has hurricanes. Florida has a rainy season where it rains almost every day in the afternoon. In the summertime, all right? They they don't need this. They don't need this water. And these programs exist all over the place. So let me know down below what you're seeing. Hope you guys are staying safe, staying prepared, staying stocked up out there. I hope you guys have big blessings for your life, your family, and I hope you have a big old blessed day.